with Azure Rights Management. My name is Chris Lloyd. I'm an architect with Oxford Computer Group. Just going to go through a quick overview of who Oxford Computer Group is. We've had a 15-plus year focus on identity and access management. We've been the partner of the year 6 times, and we've been the partner of the year the past 3 years. Most recently, we were the partner of the year for enterprise mobility. We've delivered more than 600 enterprise projects from the US, the United Kingdom, Netherlands, and Germany. And we've trained over 6,000 students on Microsoft technologies. And we have some upcoming webinars on September 3rd. We've got a training from FIM to MIM. And then we have some upcoming training sessions on MIM. So we have the MIM Foundation, and the MIM Advanced Consultant, and the MIM Expert. And those are happening in October and November. So we're going to get started today, and we're going to be talking about Azure RMS Key Management. We're going to look at the RMS Connector. I'm actually going to show you how the RMS Connector can work with a file classification infrastructure. Go through a demo of that, and then we'll look at the newly released RMS Protection Tool, and we'll get a demo on that as well. So if you're unfamiliar with RMS, you might be asking yourself, what are these keys and why do we need to manage them? And the short answer is the RMS Tenant key is the key that's used to encrypt all of your documents when you're using Azure RMS. This means that it's extremely important to keep this key protected and safe. And so whenever your key is used for RMS within an organization, they cryptographically chain to your RMS tenant key. And so Azure RMS maintains one or more of these keys for each organization that subscribes to Azure RMS. So we have 2 different models for managing those keys. And the first one is having the key managed by Microsoft. So Microsoft will generate your tenant key, and it keeps the master copy. So once you enable Azure RMS, this automatically takes place. So you click the button, the key is generated, and Azure RMS has it up in the cloud. You can export that key to on-premises via PowerShell, and Azure RMS logs all the information to show how your key was used to protect data. The second option is the bring your own key method. This is where you generate your tenant key with an HSM, you keep the master copy, you secure it, and back it up on premise. Then you'll securely transfer your own tenant key to Microsoft's HSMs. You can either do that by going there in person, or there's now a way to upload it via a PowerShell commandlet. So your key stays protected by Talis HSMs. Microsoft can't see your tenant key in the cloud. And Azure RMS can use your tenant key to authorize users to open your documents. And Microsoft actually replicates that tenant key across a controlled set of HSMs for scale or disaster recovery, but can't export it. And Azure RMS, just like before, also provides all the logging information to show how your key was used. So there's a couple of limitations to the bring your own key model right now. It's not currently compatible with Exchange Online. So what does that exactly mean? So it means we can't use it for protected emails or protected attachments in Outlook Web Access, so they can't be displayed in Outlook Web Access. Protected emails on mobile devices that use Exchange ActiveSync, IRM cannot be displayed. And there's a couple other things with using IRM inside of Exchange online with the bring your own key. So right now our recommendation, and this is Microsoft's recommendation as well, is that if you want to use Azure RMS with the Exchange Online components, then use the Microsoft Managed Key mode now, and then when support for Exchange Online becomes available for the bring your own key, then switch to that model. So it's actually a pretty seamless process. What happens is you'll then generate that key with your HSM, you'll upload it to Microsoft, and then that key will get chained to your tenant key, and then you'll start using the bring your own key for all documents going forward. So right now we're going to switch topics just slightly a bit, and we're going to talk about the RMS Connector. The RMS Connector is the component that allows you to bring Azure RMS to some of your on-premise systems. And some of the benefits of the RMS connector, aside from bringing either the cloud RMS service to your on-premise systems, is that it deploys really quickly. It's really easy to stand up. It communicates to the Azure RMS service and allows for on-premise exchange, file servers running FCI, and SharePoint to use RMS templates and encryption to protect documents. So what it is it's going to be a server. You're going to want to have multiple servers, and it acts as a communication relay between the on-premise servers and the cloud interface. Essentially what it's doing is it's emulating ADRMS. So if you're familiar with ADRMS, it's actually kind of emulating that connection point between those on-premise servers and itself to use the Azure RMS service to bring in those encryption standards. And so you'll either need Exchange 2010, Exchange 2013, SharePoint 2010, 2013, and file classification infrastructure, which is running either on Server 2012 or Server 2012 R2. So the server requirements for this is you need to have a Windows server that's running any of those operating systems, pretty minimal RAM and disk requirements. You want to have definitely 2 or more, and they'll need to be in a forest or domain that trusts other forests in the organization that contain the installations of Exchange SharePoint that you want to use the RMS connector with. And you want to have them on a load balance setup on ports 80 and 443, and you want a certificate for the web server, because it will stand up use IIS to stand up a web server, and you'll want a cert for that. And that can be either a internally generated cert with ADCS, a purchase cert, or from a standalone CA. And so here's the RMS Connector Administration tool, and it's very simple to use. So once you've installed it, it installs, it sets up IIS. You'll open this up to manage it. You can click Add here. And that brings up you'll authorize servers to use the connector. And so from the role list here, you can either choose Exchange, SharePoint, or an FCI server. And then in the group section, you'll either specify the group or the account, meaning the actual computer account, or dependent upon what system you're actually connecting. They have different requirements, which are on TechNet. But some of those can be either a service account or the actual, in this instance, for FCI, you're either going to add the server object itself or a group containing the server objects. So the RMS connector and FCI. So this is when we're connecting to file classification infrastructure that's running on 2012 or 2012 R2. And there's a couple of configuration options that you can use. So once you've stood up the RMS connector, you can either modify some registry entries manually, which is unsuggested because typos occur, and it's much easier to use the script which is provided with the RMS connector download, and it's called gen connector config. And it can either be ran locally on the desired server, it can be used to generate GPO objects, so you can deploy this with group policy, or it can even generate registry files that can be deployed with SCCM. And so it kind of looks like this, and these may be a little hard to see, but you have the option. You can run this locally on the server that you're going to have use the RMS connector, whether that's Exchange or FCI in this case, or it can be used to create GPO objects. You notice we're just changing switches here. We're just adding the different switches. The script is fairly well documented, and it runs pretty easy. The benefit of using the script rather than making these registry changes yourself is that when you run it, it's actually going to test that connector URI, which is connecting back to the RMS connector, and you're actually validating that it can connect before it actually lets you proceed and either create any of these changes. So I'm going to take you through a quick demo here, and I'm actually working on a laptop that had a display driver crash right before this before the webinar took place. So I'm kind of restricted, and I'm trying to make my way around this. So first, I'm going to start on the RMS connector side, and I've already got the RMS Connector Administration tool open here. And you can see these are all these servers I've already authorized to use, and it's just as simple as coming in here and clicking Add. And adding a server, the role, and then getting the account in there. Now, before this comes up and you actually launch this interface, you'll have to sign in with a user and a cloud user from your Azure tenant, from your Azure AD, that actually has permissions to be a RMS administrator. And if you even click this link right here, it tells you what permissions that account would have to have. But once you sign it, then brings up that next interface. And that's really all that's it. I mean, there's nothing else, no other magic that needs to be installed or needs to be configured on this server. So I'm going to switch over to a file server that I have running. And I'm going to start in the, the File Server Resource Manager. And I'm not a File Server Resource Manager expert, but I do know enough to be dangerous, I'll say that. But as far as being able to set this up to work with RMS, it's fairly simple. So I've set up some simple classification properties for this task, where I have one for contains social security number, which is just a Boolean value. I have one for contains credit card, and that's another Boolean value. And all the other ones that were there just come default out of the box with File Server Resource Manager. So then I've got two classification rules here, and I've got them to detect credit cards and social security numbers. And if you're not familiar with the way that this works, I've set them up as a scope to actually look in a single folder that's located on this server. Again, if this was a true file server, we would have multiple different shares listed here potentially, and these would be shared out to users. But for this demo, I've just made it so that it's a simple folder at the root of C. And then the classification is kind of where I guess we're going to say the logic or the magic happens. But I've used a regular expression to detect credit cards. I don't think I can make that any bigger. This is social security numbers. I'm sorry, lost my track there. So if I pop this out, it's just a regular expression used to detect the presence of social security numbers. But this could be, formulated in any manner that whatever data you were trying to detect. So that's just social security numbers, basic regex to detect that. So I've got that set up, and then the evaluation happens, and if it meets that parameter, then we specify that it's a yes, it contains the credit card or social security number in that case. And the credit card looks very similar. It has just the different regex in there, and then when it meets that criteria, then it gets stamped with the property value. Now, under the file management tasks is where I'm actually applying the RMS. So if I look at the credit card one now, the scope is also going to be the same folder because that's all that this demo is meant to show. And in the action, you'll actually select RMS encryption here. This is retrieving the RMS templates from the RMS connector, and the RMS connector in turn is retrieve them from the cloud, from the Azure RMS service, bringing them to this server in that manner. So this file server isn't talking directly to the cloud, it's kind of doing it via proxy through the RMS connector. That's RMS connector is facilitating that transaction. So for this one, I've got a template called financial data that I've constructed, and I'll apply it once we meet the criteria to be containing of a credit card. Now the schedule is where you'll schedule this to run, and there's some additional configuration here which applies to how this is going to be applied to your files, and some of those conditions could be the day since the file was created, day since it was last modified, last accessed, and only look for certain file name patterns, and then the schedule about how you can have this run. You can have it run on a weekly or daily, but then one of the more interesting options is to have it run on new files, meaning if a file gets created in there, we immediately evaluate it and we immediately apply RMS if necessary and if it meets the criteria. So to demonstrate that, I have a folder here of test files, and I've got different ones, different Office documents, PDF file, and some of them contain credit cards and some of them contain social security numbers, and some of them don't. So if I look at one of the ones that does contain credit cards, it looks like, I have to Excel open up here. And there's not real credit cards, so don't go trying these anywhere. These are just, if you do a Google search for dummy credit card numbers, they'll give you all the test credit card numbers for all the different vendors of credit card numbers. So these are not real, but they would trip up our regex that we're looking for. If you look, so I've got all the different credit cards in here from all the different vendors. So those exist in those files. In my no credit card file, I basically just have some text in there that says there's no credit card here. For some reason, Excel's taking a little while to run on me here. I'm going to blame my display driver. All right, so I've got no credit cards in this Excel file. I've also got a Word document, with Social Security numbers here. That's not a real Social Security number either, but it will trip up the regex. And then I've got, it's got no Social Security numbers here. I don't have an SSN in this document. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all these files. And before I do that, I want to take a look at the file sizes. So you kind of look at those file sizes. All the PDF and the Visio are bigger, but look at all the other documents, the Office documents. They're all in the 30 to 22, and some are less than that. Now, when we encrypt a file, its file size grows because we're adding in additional data to encrypt it. So once I copy these over, and in a couple of seconds, you'll watch the RMS encryption being applied, and the sizes will grow on the files that have, the credit cards with the Social Security numbers, and then the other ones will remain the same. So I'm going to copy those over through my RDP session. Now, if this was, if this was a user's workstation, they would have a map network drive, and they would actually create the file, create a file on that network drive, and it would immediately be evaluated. So this is kind of simulating that. I just haven't domain joined this my personal workstation to the AD environment I'm working in. So I'm going to paste those files in there and give it a second. What's happening right now is they're being evaluated, and then RMS protection is being applied. And sometimes we'll see temporary files pop up here as the encryption is occurring. You'll see one right there. That'll go away in a second after they've all been evaluated. I'm going to let it just take a little bit longer. You're seeing things being changed around. And if I hit refresh, you'll notice that the with SSNs and the with credit card information are now much larger. So they've been applied with RMS protection. I can prove this to you by copying them back to my desktop. I'll make a new folder called Encrypted. Now, my workstation account here, my Oxford Computer Group account that I'm currently using, does not have permissions to these documents. I've set it up that way, so it's going to fail with me. And if I try to open up one with a Social Security number, it should be contacting the RMS service saying I do not have permissions to open this document. And the same thing with the PowerPoint file. That's really small. You do not have permission to open this document. The same thing, what we would expect. That's the old one. And let's see if I got. And then if I try to open up the with credit card, I should get the same thing, except Excel is running slow on me. Oh, come on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, there it goes, as soon as I'm ready to do something else. So the same message here. So those were all encrypted. Now I have a virtual machine running with Windows 10. I was going to run it, there it is. With some users that actually do have permission to this document. And then my domain is ocg-lloyd.us. So Bugs Bunny here does have permissions on those templates. So if I copy those documents over to here, I should be able to open up the with credit card document. Excel is faster on my virtual machine. That's kind of funny. So it's connecting to the rights management, Azure Rights Management service, able to tell me that I've authenticated, I have access to it. You'll see up here that the financial data template was applied to it. We can view the permissions. Bugs Bunny is currently I believe he's an author. I can double check that by going to back into Azure, I can sign in, I can look at the templates. Once this pops up. You have to forgive me, I had to restart some things after I originally crashed my display driver. So I've got some groups. The groups that we're looking at is RMS authors. Bugs Bunny is in that group. If I go back out and I go to Rights Management, I go to Lloyd Demo here, which is my subdomain. And if I'm looking at financial data, you'll see that RMS authors has co-author rights on those documents applied with that protection. So he should also be able to open up all the other documents, even the ones containing the Social Security numbers. So he's got with SSN there. And this was encrypted with the PII template. He can view permissions because he's still an author there. The only thing he doesn't have is full control. It even gives a description of what this is for, which is specified in the Azure RMS template. So that's pretty neat. That's why you can employ RMS and automatically protect documents that are being stored on a file server that's totally on-premise. So none of that data, none of those documents actually went to the cloud. All that was on-premise. The only thing that was retrieved from the cloud was the policies, the encryption to the keys to encrypt the documents. So your data was totally on-premise the entire time. So I'm going to continue on here, and we're going to talk about the RMS Protection Tool. So the RMS Protection Tool is a command line interface. We can use admin-defined templates, which are the RMS templates that we've created in the cloud. We can protect documents of any type, so we can protect PDFs, Office documents, images, anything. And when we do a document that doesn't already have protection built in it, on a previous webinar I've shown how it kind of acts like a zip file. So certain applications are able to handle RMS, Azure RMS, and actually use the RMS service. Other applications have not been made Azure RMS aware. And so they will use the RMS sharing app to open, basically allow the user to authenticate the user to determine if they have permissions and then open the document. And if you're interested in seeing that, it's on the previous webinar, which is available on our website. And so the requirements for the RMS Protection Tool, and this would be used for an administrator. So the use cases are we're configuring maybe a batch process to encrypt all the files in a directory. We're looking, maybe we're going to use PowerShell to make some logical decisions about those files, maybe what folders they're in or things like that. So this is to be used, as by an administrator to actually go through and encrypt, files, in a batch process essentially. So the requirements, we need .NET 3.5, we need the Azure Active Directory module for Windows PowerShell, the Azure Rights Management Administration tool, and we can make the links to this presentation available later if that's what you're wondering right now, to try to remember all those links. So for the installation, you'll download the actual installer. The commandlets are installed under the module RMS Protection, and just like anything in PowerShell, you can definitely use the get-help to get more details on each commandlet. So there's three things that you'll need to actually use this tool, and they are the app principal ID, the BPOS tenant ID, and the symmetric key. And so I'm going to walk you through how you can actually get those. So the first thing you want to do is you run PowerShell as administrator. You'll import the RMS module using import module AADRM, and you'll connect to the service with your admin credentials. So this is your Azure credentials. So once you use the connect-AADRM service, Windows credential box will pop up. You'll enter those credentials in there and you'll connect. And so the second thing you'll do is you will get your tenant ID by running get AADRM configuration. And so it's actually on this screen right here, it's the BPOS ID. So you'll want to copy that string down there. So you'll notice if you look at that window right there, the BPOS ID is the one that starts with A9, and that's my ID. And then you'll disconnect from the AADRM service because that's all we need from there. And then we need to create a service principal, and that's where the other two items come into play here. So you'll import the Windows Azure AD module, which if you're using Office 365 or Azure Active Directory Premium, you're very familiar with using this module. So you'll import that module, connect to your online service using the familiar connect-msol service, and you'll want to create a new MSOL service principal. And so once you do that, you'll give it a display name, and then you'll want to copy the symmetric key, which is the key ID, and the application principal, which is the app principal ID, and then you already have the tenant ID from the previous step. So to protect a file, you'll open up Windows PowerShell and you'll run set-RMS Server Authentication. And using the three values that you just created and retrieved, you'll plug in the key, the app principal ID, the BPOS tenant ID, and that will set up your RMS, the protection tool, to know where to contact and what templates to use. You can then retrieve templates using the command like get RMS template, and then you can protect a file using the protect-RMS file. And when you do the protect-RMS file, you specify a template. You can either specify, in this example that I've listed off here, we've stored all the templates in an array, and we specified the second one in the array to use as the template, or you could just grab the template ID string and plug it in there as well. And unprotect, you can mass bulk unprotect files this way too. So you can just run the unprotect file and it just removes the RMS protection. This is why this is only for administrator use, because this is kind of creating a pretty wide open broad brush to encrypt and decrypt files. So this would be only for administrators to use this type of functionality. So I'm going to give a quick demo. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to see if there's any questions. It doesn't seem to be any questions. Okay, that's easy. So to demo this, I'm going to open up PowerShell. I've got my test files. Those are the encrypted ones, so I'm going to delete them. So I've got I can't do that because it's open somewhere. That's all right, not that concerned. So if I'm going to look at all these files here, and I'm going to encrypt them. So I've got a Word document, so I don't have to type all this stuff out. So I'm going to run the command, the set RMS Server Authentication. And you'll notice the RMS Server Authentication is set to on now after I ran that command. That's the command that contains your key, your BPOS ID, and your app principal ID that we would have created in a previous, the previous commands that I walked you through before. So you can always use the get RMS templates. That'll retrieve all the templates in your Azure environment. You'll notice I have, I got 4 there. But I'm going to actually do what I had said in the item, where I'm going to store them in an array. So now I've got my templates. I'm currently in the test files directory, so I can see them. So I'm going to get all the files that are in that directory by using the get child item commandlet. So now I've got all the files, and now I have a for each loop that I'll send those through, or for each object that I will send those through, and I got an error. All right. I'm not sure which file it errored on right now. At least I don't have permission. Oh, I didn't specify it. It was trying to encrypt the folder there. I knew if I created that there, I'd run into problems. Anyway, but it ran through all the rest of the files and encrypted them. And you'll notice that some of the icons changed on some of those files. The other ones didn't change the icon. These changed because they are not RMS enabled applications. So the Visio diagram, and the PDFs, the applications to open those, there aren't a standard Microsoft Office opener for them. But I can try to open them here. The sharing app will try to authenticate me, realizes I do not have permissions because I'm using not the Oxford tenant, I'm using my own personal one, which my Oxford account does not have access to. We can also try to access the with credit card. It should give me the same error. But if I go over and copy these over to my workstation over here, I'm going to make a new folder so that it's different. And we're back in Bugs Bunny's account. He can definitely open up the PDF file. So the sharing app's going to open up. It's going to authenticate him, granting him access. The sharing app is handling the PDFs on this computer, and there's the document. And you'll notice that it's been encrypted, or the template that's been applied is the Lloyd Demo Confidential, which is the one I specified in my script. So if we go back to the script here, I'm using template number 1 or template number 2 in the array. So he can open up that. He can also open up any of the documents here. So the PowerPoint, which is the Azure RMS, is handled natively in the application. Opens it fine, and we have the template name, template description, and you can see the permissions that he has in here. So this is the view-only one, which doesn't allow him to export it. It doesn't allow him to print it or copy the document. So that's really the bulk tool. You can kind of see how you could use this going forward in your environment, in making broad changes. This is also useful if you're trying to if you need to, dissolve your existing Azure RMS. Maybe your company has been, bought out, and we need to bulk decrypt all the documents. And then if that new company that has bought you, we can then use this to apply their RMS templates back to these documents. So it's basically an admin way to strip or add protection in a bulk manner. And that's actually all I have today for Azure RMS. Were there any questions? Let me see if I can open up the chat window. All right, I don't see any questions, but if anybody has any, I can definitely try to answer them. We have some free time. I know I was scheduled for an hour, and I only ate up half of that. I'm going to blame that on the fact that I didn't have anybody to introduce me. I was too quick going through the Oxford Computer Group. But a quick wrap-up while I wait to see if anybody has any questions. I'll just say that you can buy these Azure RMS licenses. You can either buy them individually as Azure RMS licenses, or they are also included with the EMS, the Enterprise Mobility Suite license Microsoft offers. And if you haven't taken a look at the Enterprise Mobility Suite licensing and what's included in that, I definitely suggest you could. So inside of that is Intune, which is a mobile device management option that Microsoft has. You get Azure RMS. And you will also get Advanced Threat Analytics, which is still in preview, but it's coming out. And then you'll also get Azure Active Directory Premium, which in and of itself has tons of different options. Also, if you're still interested in Azure RMS and you're looking for how does it impact the user, what does the user see when they try to share files, and some of the basics, if you'll go back and actually watch the first webinar that we gave, about Azure RMS, it might make a lot of things clear. This was kind of like a series where we kind of explore Azure RMS and the options that you can use going down the road. So that's all I really have today. If there's no other questions,
hi Chris, we do have a few questions in the question box.
Okay. I must have missed them. I apologize. I don't think I can see the question box.
Oh, okay. I can read them for you if you like.
If you want to go ahead and read them off to me, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Okay. First question we have is, what does HSM stand for?
So HSM is a hardware security module, and that is a appliance that you'll purchase, and Microsoft has in the cloud, that is a hardened device that actually is built to store keys. And that's kind of the basic explanation of it. But they are really expensive, and so a lot of clients, a lot of our customers, choose the Microsoft Managed option because it's cheaper in the long run. But an HSM is that's what it is. It's storing your keys, so different keys you may use in your organization outside of RMS.
All right. The next question we have is, can you use the bulk tool if the file servers are not Windows servers, like NAS?
Yes, the bulk tool can be used on anything you can get your hands on, as far as using PowerShell to look at those files, and you can. So if you wanted to set that up on a batch job, we would need to figure out some way. You'd have to have some way to encrypt those credentials that we're using there, so they don't, because those are kind of powerful right there. So we need to figure out a way to encrypt those. But yes, it can be used on any type of file server.
All right. That looks like all the questions that I see in the box. Are there any more questions?
And if you're interested in RMS, we'll be happy to help you do a pilot. You can easily phase this into your environment. It's not we don't have to turn it on all at once, and you have to go start encrypting your files. You can easily, gradually roll this out to your environment. It is not a pull the switch and now everything's encrypted. You can gradually roll this out. But that's all I've got. I appreciate you all for joining, and thanks for letting me preach RMS to you.